So here's the dress that we are planning to make. Here's the back, and here's the front. And one of the things you will find in your kit are the first things which we'll use are these two things right here. This is a bodice, and yours may be a different color. This one I'm just using one that I previously had already made, and you'll see that it's not necessary that you know, the color is not that big a deal because it's actually almost totally concealed if you could see it in this one. So the first thing that we are going to do is you take your bodice and you grab a ruler and you measure from the shoulder, top of the shoulder, to the bottom about 1.5 inches. And you pretty much just mark that spot. Here, I guess I will do it for you. Go. So here we go, from the shoulders to approximately 1.5 inches. And what this is this gives you an idea of about how low you should place this portion that I'm going to do. And then you will receive a ribbon that looks like this, and I will want you to actually cut it, whatever piece I give you, into 4 pieces. And you'll come up with the piece like this. It's probably around 7-8 inches, something like that. And it gets trimmed afterwards, so it's not that big of a deal. Then I take it and I kind of twist it like about the center, like this. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to actually glue it right here, below the line. You see the lines there? I glue it below the line. And really, it can be up higher or lower, but just below the line is what you need. Okay, and there's no like exact way of doing this. Just I do a couple of twists, and that just helps to keep it together. It also makes it a little thick for me, so when I put glue, I'm not burning myself. So just gonna put a little glue there. And I usually don't go all the way down, because then when I'm done, like near the end, when I'm already done with my dress, I can decide if I think it needs more, if I want it to be fuller. And some of you may want it to be extremely full because that's the design you like. But really, if it needs more, I'll actually provide it in there, but I'll see. That's up to you. You can actually add something else, anything else that you have under here if you want to make your dress fuller. So here I go. So you do this for all 4 sides, and you will find that I am going to fast forward through a lot of this tutorial because I do have several tutorials out, and really what you need to do in these tutorials is to really see where I'm using the items that I provide you in the kit. When you are putting this on, you do not want to put too much along the hip sides. Later on, if it shows through too much, you can attach it a little bit there. You know, so it's okay to put a little, but just don't overdo the sides, because if you put too much, then your dress ends up being a little bit too hippie on the side there. But all of those decisions are really up to you. If you want it to have that kind of a look, then by all means just put a lot more on this side. But I make this have a little bit of a hip, so that's usually enough. My goal right now is mostly that when I'm done with this, that you're not seeing through a lot of the right straight through the dress. So here you go, there's the slip part, and look at that going up. Don't worry about things like that, because really that fluff is part of what's going to give your dress the fullness. But see how I just did it? I put a little glue on there. Do as much as you want. And the next thing you're going to find in the kit is this beautiful, beautiful crushed velvet looking taffeta. Now, what's important about this is that you're going to be cutting strips, and the strips, this fabric, the length is what's the most important. And this length of these is approximately 16, a little bit over, about 16 and a half or so. You will take the shorter end and you will cut strips, and I'll show you a couple. And the strips need to be about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch long. And if you go like this and it's hard to cut it, you need to make it a little longer, and then you should be able to rip it. Now, you need to have a total of 6 or 7 strips, maybe we should go 7 strips. So there's one. So if it's about a 1/2 inch to 1/4 of an inch, you should have plenty of so right now that is 1, 2, 3, and here's 4. I'm making them kind of long. 5, 6, 7. I might be able to give you a little less fabric. We'll see. Then you just rip them. So if you get to a point where you're trying to rip it and it doesn't rip, again, all you do is you just cut a little longer and try it. And it does take a bit of force to actually rip it. This is a tattered dress. Even though it looks very elegant, it's still tattered. Now after you're done cutting, you should get about at least 7 strips. Then this is the point where you will go through and remove some of these strays, and this fabric, the strays, will all be black thread. And whenever you pull off the black thread, it actually makes this red appear a little bit more. You don't have to like pull a lot more off, just pull off the strays. So there you go. That's enough for this one. You can see there's not many more strays, and just do that for every one. So now that you have all your strips, you will cut them in half one more time. I like to do them this way. That way you're basically working with less. So you can do as many as you want and cut them in half. And so you should end up with something about this long. And let me measure it for you. It's about 8 inches long. I forgot to mention one thing, is that take one of the pieces that ends up being one of the thinner ones that you have. So I'm going to keep it aside without tearing it, because we're going to use that for the next step. And actually, if you end up cutting it by accident, then just use any ribbon or yarn that you have that matches. So I left one long, and this is going to be what we're going to use as our base for the dress. So if you have difficulty with this next step, I do show you this step many times in my previous videos. But what I do next, and since this is actually a two-sided fabric, I'm not that worried about it, but I do fold it like this, and then I take the strip, that long strip that you had, and we are going to, what this is called is a lark's head. knot, and we're going to lark's head it onto the fabric, and you can see it's really difficult to see with this dark red. So if you have a lot of trouble, then make sure you go to one of my other tutorials that are on how to make the dresses. And lark's heading it on is basically just like making a knot on it. See that? You will end up, what you want to do is you want to attach it repeatedly in the same direction so that they end up all the same. So I'm going to leave this loose so you can see it. Let's see. It's I know that it's hard to see with the dark colors, so I hope you get this. I'm going to do another one slowly and then I will move on. So I take this ribbon you just made and I fold it like this so that it makes an X, and there's a hole there, and these on the bottom are kind of even. I place the other one that we have right over, and then there's a hole right here. I take the bottom tails, I try to keep them even, and I push them through the hole, and when you do that, it knots onto it. Kind of looks like a tie before you're done, like when you tie a tie, and then you make it nice and snug, and you just pull it up. Don't make it so snug that you can't move it, because like I just did, because they you do need to pull them towards each other. There, luckily I didn't do those others too tight. See, and then this will end up forming our actual skirt part of the dress. Okay, I'm nearing the end of putting them all on, and I haven't like tightened all of them extremely tight, because if this ends up being a little bit too thick for you, you might want to remove one. I'll explain that to you in a moment. So now you go and you take them all and you snug them up tightly together, and then they are going to go on top like a wraparound skirt and around the dress. Now, when you're putting this on, I want you to understand that all of these that are on here should be a little shorter than the actual, like they shouldn't meet. It needs to be snug. So if they're too thick up here, then it won't be snug. So you need to make sure you snug everything together. The other thing, let's count. I haven't counted how many I put on, but I think last time I put 12. But if you make the strips thinner, then you'll need more. If you make them thicker, you'll need less. And so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So right now I have about 10 or 11. It's got to be 10 because 11 because I have one left over here. But I think this feels like it's enough to me. So snug them together, and then if you see like one that's got a big knot on it, one of your goals is to make this knot here as small as you can on every single one of them, because that helps them to stick together. So what I do is I hold them and I pull on each individual string to make sure I get it nice and snug, but yet not so snug that I can't move them closer together. But I glance to see if there's any that look like they're a little too large and need to be pulled on. Yeah, that one needed to be pulled on, see? And then the last one. And then again, you take it and you pull them together. I'm pulling it out of frame, but there you go. So that it's as narrow as, pretty narrow, okay? Snug them together. Because it's better that they're too small than they are too big. Otherwise, you'll end up without a waist on your. And so what you're going to do is you glued all this down, and this is the slip part of your dress, and this is the actual top part of the dress. And this string right here will actually become one of the strands also that come down. So I want you to wrap it like if you're doing a knot when you tie your shoe, and then I snug it together. And can you see that this knot and this knot are still not touching, but now they're touching and they're almost overlapping, and it's making it nice and tight. Oh, sorry, I moved my camera. So it's how tight you make this really helps to give your dress that waistline. And remember, this other string that you have is actually going to stay there also, so it'll fill up that back portion. And you can actually still take these little knots and move them around so that you don't have like too many on the hip, and just make it so it looks good. So there you go. So now you have a dress, and then you have this organza one sticking out. And what you could do is, I usually take it and flip the skirt over, and I'm keeping my slip together. That's just slip, and I could tell that it needs to be just a little shorter. So you can see how crooked that is. All you do is take some scissors and just cut it as straight as you want it. You can round it if you want a little. It's up to you. And fluff it up, because it's the fluff of your dress. Yes, that looks beautiful. And then you see these hanging down. You can do the same thing with this. There we go. Until next time, I will talk to you next time when we do the next part of our dress. This is Liz with Crafty Devotion. I hope you were inspired today. Remember to look in the description box for any information to my boutique. There you go. Talk to you next time.